You're very welcome back. Well, our next guest spent the first 4 years of his life in a county home in Dublin in the 1970s. He recently discovered that he was part of 2 vaccine trials during his time there.
The revelation has raised more questions than answers for Dublin Councillor Francis Timmons, who says he wants to get to the bottom of what the trials were really about. Francis, you're very welcome to the programme.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on today.
So, Francis, you found yourself as a young boy in this particular home, and along with a lot of other young children. But how did it come to pass that you realised that you had been chosen or selected to be part of these vaccine trials?
I actually discovered by accident. I was doing a bit of research on the internet for somebody else on vaccines and stuff, and I was looking up and I found out that there was a vaccine trial in Madonna House, which I was in 1973. So I looked and I thought, I was there in 1973. I had no indication that I was part of the trials, so I emailed them, and in fairness, they came back to me fairly quick and said I was part of the trials.
So when you first contacted the order that ran Madonna House, they told you that your records weren't there anymore? They
told me that there had been a fire and that the records were destroyed. That's when I went looking for my notes. I actually, like I said, didn't know I was part of the vaccine trials. But what I did was I looked for my records. They said there was a fire. Eventually I found out that wasn't true, and I got them off the HSE eventually.
Oh, right.
So I got all the files, came one day, and amazing to look at there, because not so much detail about your life arrives in a package one day.
Yeah.
Everything from receipts, letters, anything that was from when I was a child.
Associated with you all came in the one package.
And I was told there was no records. And
so when you contacted them initially, it's the Sisters of Charity that told you there was a fire and all records were destroyed?
No, that's the standard
of course.
Standard answer that a lot of people got.
Yeah. And you were investigating this for someone else?
I was, yeah.
And then decided to investigate it for yourself. It must have been a huge shock to discover that.
Huge shock. Well, you don't think 44 years later that you're going to find out something new about your life that you didn't know, considering I'd already known that I'd been in Madonna House and then I was in foster care and that. So I didn't... I wasn't expecting another
And the
blow.
vaccine trials, explain that to us. I mean, how many vaccines would you have been given? What were they for?
My understanding, see, I'm learning now because I only got this information the 26th of June.
You're still trying to process it yourself.
So it's still going through my head.
Even a month ago,
and I've written back. It's actually, like you said, it's raised more questions for me and a lot of other people, I would imagine, as well. I found out that I was part of the GTB vaccine. I was 1 in 18 that got that, and then a month later I was 1 in 30 that got the other trial. I was 29 months with the first trial and 30 months. So one happened in July and the other happened in August 73. So that's what I know that they've sent me.
And Francis, what about the issue of consent? I mean, your mother was alive at the time that you were in Madonna House. Would her consent have been sought for you to be selected for this trial?
The answer is I don't know the answer as such. It's one of the things I would raise. But what I would raise today is that a lot of the children that were in, whether they were in county homes or mother and baby homes or in the Magdalen laundries, the issue of consent in general was that most of the women were coerced or forced into these situations.
Oh, they had no choice.
They had no choice, absolutely
so
no choice.
They didn't want their children going into these
So
homes.
I wouldn't imagine that there were
They were contacted for
consent. Now, I know the orders have generally said that they didn't give consent, so the issue still is up in the air. From the little bit of research I've been doing since I found out that through the internet mainly, is in 2003 that they had set up an investigation into the vaccine trials. At the time, GlaxoSmithKline, which is the pharmaceutical company, they admitted to 3 vaccines. We've since found out there was another 2 lots of vaccines that they were found out about, and basically we don't know who gave consent.
So there was a legal challenge because ultimately there needs to be investigations, and there have been investigations around the ethics of this, because it's just so disgraceful for us to even... It's despicable for us to even think about this being done now. That these children, it seemed okay to test it on you, which is just so awful. There was an investigation and a legal challenge, but it was shut down based on the professor's age and ill health.
That's right, yes.
That was Professor Patrick Meenan. Yeah. So where are we at now in terms of the investigation?
Well, there is no investigation at the minute. I mean, there's a commission into mother and baby homes at the minute. Obviously, I was in the county home. They're not included.
Not covered in that then, yeah.
They're not covered in this. We were covered in the original redress scheme because they recognised the vaccine trials and that. And Madonna House as well was covered in the redress scheme. But I must say from the outset, redress is not my issue. My issue has always been about getting truth and justice. Other people may feel that they're entitled to redress, and they probably are because they've been wronged, and that's fine. My issue for myself is that I want to get the truth and I want to get it exactly out. A lot of the information when they did that investigation is locked away now for 75 years. So that's...
Francis, in terms of... So they put, foreign substances into your body, right, in a trial capacity. So without knowing whether these are actually 100% safe for human beings or not. Have you suffered any ill effects? Do you know if anybody else who was involved in the trial has, or are you okay?
Not that I'm aware of, but obviously it does affect. Like, that's one of the things I've written to Glasgow Smith and Kline after they wrote the letter. I've written back to them and I've asked who gave consent. Was there, is there any long-term damage that they're aware of?
What did they say back to that?
No, they haven't answered that yet because, like you said, it took me a few weeks to get over the initial shock, and then I thought it went from anger then to wanting answers, and
And under the Data Protection Act, people can inquire through the HSE and GlaxoSmithKline, and they are being transparent. The
HSE files that I got back, the original files were from Madonna House. They didn't mention the vaccine trials at all, because I would have known a few years ago when I got my files, but they had a mention, so they mentioned nothing about that. It wasn't until the GlaxoSmithKline came back and said I was part of the trials.
Francis, take a step back and just look at this in terms of how people, including yourself, were selected for this. It seems to represent nearly sort of a caste society in Ireland, where if you were unfortunate enough to end up in the care of the state, well, then you were essentially... you were chosen by drug companies as a guinea pig for their... What does that say to you?
I think, well, it's obviously it's horrible. Like, well, to be an unmarried mother in the 19s, we're going back to the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, right up to the 80s, was just a class. It was you were nothing really.
That's right.
And you were treated, the children were nothing as well. And they had awful names that we won't say in television. But it just shows that there was no regard. We were there as objects, and we could be.
But
they could do whatever they wanted, and they did.
Your mental health or your confidence, at least going forward, because I know your memory of Madonna House is a grim memory, and there are flashbacks that you have to deal with. Never mind any of this vaccine trial stuff.
Well, yeah, of course it does. I mean, I've probably been very lucky. I have a partner that I'm with 18 years that's been very supportive, and I have a lot of family that are very supportive as well. So I've been very lucky in a lot of ways. And I know that sounds, but in some ways I'm very lucky because I met my mother.
You connected with her years later.
I had met her over the years, and then we kind of lost contact on and off. And I was with her when she died. And I have pictures, which a lot of people don't have. So that's really, really important. And I've letters and stuff that a lot of people wouldn't have. There's people older than I am that have never connected again, or mothers that have never seen the children because they were adopted out and didn't hear the truth. The truth was they'd no choice. The women weren't asked to give up the children were taken from them.
Francis, thank you very much for your time this morning, and best of luck with the continued investigation.
It's really brave of you to come in and be so honest about such a difference.
Hopefully it'll help other people who are in the same situation.
And I would appeal to people to go and seek their information.
They're perfectly entitled to it. You deserve the truth.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's the least you deserve. Thank you.